Verger. On an afternoon in May 1924, there was to be a christening at St. Peter's, Neville Square, a church much favoured by the fashionable for these ceremonies. The verger, Albert Foreman, was ironing his second-best gown for the occasion. During his 17 years of service, he'd had a succession of these gowns, but he'd never been able to throw them away. And so they lay wrapped in brown paper in a bottom drawer in his bedroom.
I thought you was going to clear out that drawer this morning, Mr. Foreman.
So I was.
Well, how much longer are you going to keep putting it off?
I don't know. I just haven't got the heart to get rid of them somehow.
What you can possibly want with a lot of old gowns cluttering up the place for beats me.
All right, I'll do it tomorrow.
You better had if you don't want to see them turned into dusters. Back by 6, won't you?
Can't say. With old Ferguson, you always knew where you were. 35 minutes to the dot. But with this new chap, anything might happen.
I'll have your tea for you at 6 anyway.
Right you are, Mrs. Brown.
Thank you.
What a chap.
Thank you.
Lovely.
Thank you, Verger. Very nice service.
Thank you very much, sir. Five bob. And him the 10th inheritor of a foolish face. I don't know what the aristocracy's coming to.
Took his time, didn't he?
He believes in doing it proper while he's about it. What are you waiting for?
Oh, his neighbours wants to see me about them bells.
Oh?
Ferguson always left them to me. What's he want to bother himself with them for?
Because he's the sort that likes to have his finger in every pie.
Well, if you ask me, it'll take a bit of getting used to.
Foreman, you come into the vestry a minute. I have something to say to you.
Very good, sir. Very nice christening, I thought, sir. Funny how the baby stopped crying the moment you took him.
I've noticed they very often do. After all, I've had a good deal of practice with them.
Good afternoon, my lord.
Afternoon, Foreman.
Good afternoon, sir. Didn't expect to find you here today.
Didn't myself, as a matter of fact, but the vicar here wanted to talk, so here we are.
We've got something rather unpleasant to say to you, Foreman. You've been here a great many years. I think his lordship and the general agree with me that you've always fulfilled the duties of your office to the satisfaction of everybody concerned.
Admirably, admirably.
Thank you, sir.
But a most extraordinary circumstance came to my knowledge the other day. I felt it my duty to impart it to the church wardens. I discovered, to my astonishment, that you can neither read nor write.
The last vicar knew that, sir. He said it didn't make no difference. He always said there was a great deal too much education in the world for his taste.
It's the most amazing thing I ever heard. Do you mean to say that you've been verger of this church for 17 years and never learned to read and write?
I went into service when I was 12, sir. The cook at my first place tried to teach me once, but I didn't seem to have the knack for it. And then, what with one thing and another, I never seemed to have the time.
Don't you ever want to write a letter?
The lady I lodge with is quite a scholar, sir. And if I want to write a letter, she writes it for me. It's not as if I was a betting man.
Well, I've talked the matter over with these gentlemen, Foreman, and they agree with me that the situation is quite impossible. At a church like St. Peter's, Neville Square, we cannot have a verger who can neither read nor write.
No, sir.
So please understand that I have no complaints against you. You always do your work quite satisfactorily. I have the highest opinion, both of your character and your capacity. But we haven't the right to take the risk of some accident which might happen owing to your lamentable ignorance.
I see, sir.
It's a matter of prudence as well as of principle.
I never took to him, not from the first. He made a great mistake ever giving him St. Peter's.
Didn't the others say nothing?
No, he jockeyed them into it. But I could see they didn't like it.
So I should hope.
He nagged them into it. That's what he did.
You're going to let yourself be put upon without making a fuss?
I don't know, Mrs. Brown. I have my pride. Even if I can't read all right.
What are you going to do?
Sleep on it. And decide tomorrow.
Good afternoon, Foreman.
Good afternoon, sir.
I have some good news for you. I met Mrs. Fitzwilliam just now. She'll have the new altar cloth ready by Friday.
About time, too, sir. She's been promising it ever since Christmas.
Well, now we shall have it ready for Easter. We must be thankful for small mercies.
Yes, sir.
Well, now, Foreman, have you thought over our little talk yesterday?
Yes, sir.
Well?
I'm very sorry, sir. I'm afraid it's no good.
Oh, calm down, Foreman. That's not the right spirit.
I'm too old a dog to learn new tricks, sir. I've lived a good many years without knowing how to read or write. And without wishing to praise myself, I think I may say I've done my duty in that state of life in which it has pleased a merciful Providence to place me. And if I could learn now, I don't know if I'd want to.
You've quite made up your mind?
Quite, sir.
In that case, Foreman, I'm afraid you'll have to go.
Yes, I quite understand. I shall be happy to hand in my resignation as soon as you've found someone to take my place.
Albert had never troubled with such questions before. The Vergers of St. Peter's, like the popes in Rome, were there for life. He'd saved a tidy sum, but not enough to live on without doing something. It occurred to him now that a cigarette would comfort him, but his packet was empty. He decided not to take his usual way home, but wandered into a street in search of a tobacconist. It was a long street, but he couldn't find a shop that sold cigarettes. There was no doubt about it, he'd have to go home without one.
What's going on?
She's engaged.
Fancy that now. Who's your lucky fella?
Why, Ted, of course.
So you caught him at last, have you? I never thought he'd got much of a chance.
Well, I like that. He's been after me for months.
That's right, and we're celebrating. See, have a glass of beer, Mr. Foreman.
I don't think I will, thank you.
Oh, come on.
Well, I've just gone up to my room. I'll join you presently. Come in.
Oh, I am sorry, Mr. Foreman. I knew the minute you came in. It's that vicar, isn't it?
Giving me the sack here after 17 years.
Whatever are you going to do now?
I don't know exactly. I've got a sort of an idea on the way home. A funny thing happened. I wanted a packet of fags, and I had to walk over half a mile before I found a tobacconist.
What's so funny about that?
Well, I can't be the only chap who walks along them streets and wants a fag. I shouldn't wonder but what a fellow might do very well somewhere around there. Tobacco and sweets, you know. I've got a bit of money saved up. I've got half a mind to buy a little shop and see what happens.
You do have ideas, I must say, Mr. Foreman.
That's not the only one. I've got another. What's going to happen to you now Glad's getting married?
Oh, Ted'll come and live here, of course. Glad's got her own room. It only means buying a double bed.
Oh, that'll make trouble, that will. A young fellow like Teddy doesn't want his mother-in-law living in the house. I'll tell you what you ought to do. You ought to marry again, Mrs. Brown.
Who'd want to marry an old woman like me?
I would.
Don't talk silly. An old bachelor like you and me a widow all these years, you're out of your mind.
Don't you believe it? I'll run the tobacco side of the business, and you run the sweets, see?
I don't know if I'm standing on my head or my heels.
Make up your mind, Mrs. Brown.
My name's Emma, Mr. Foreman.
That's good enough for me. How about a kiss?
Oh, I haven't been kissed like that since my poor husband passed away.
Not many widows can say that, are they? Come along, let's go and tell the others. And tomorrow we'll go looking for a shop.
What a row they're making down there. What are they up to?
Stop the music! I've got an announcement to make. I've offered my hand and heart to Mrs. Brown. And what did Mrs. Brown say? She said, okay.
The next day, Albert and Emma went along the street and by good luck found a little shop to let that looked as though it would exactly suit them. 24 hours later, they'd taken it, and within a month, Albert Foreman was set up in business as tobacconist and newsagent.
Very nice, too.
All we want now is a few customers.
Give him time, Emma. Can't expect to do much business the first day we open.
Oh, look, there's a man at the window.
Oh, just one of them window shoppers. Told you so.
I'm as nervous as the day we were married, Mr. Foreman.
Not so much of the Mr. Foreman. We've been married a month now, and it's high time you started calling me by my first name, and that's Albert.
I know. The fact is, I've called you Mr. Foreman for 11 years. I can't get out of the habit now. I expect I'll call you Mr. Foreman till the day I bury you.
All right, have it your own way. All I can say is it would sound a bit funny if somebody heard you saying to me in the middle of the night, "Get to your own side of the bed, Mr. Foreman. You left me on the floor next."
I don't anticipate anyone being in my bedroom in the middle of the night, Mr. Foreman. And I shouldn't have thought you did either.
Penny for suckers, please.
Got a penny?
Of course I have.
Emma, get a penny with the suckers for the gentleman.
Go.
Here you are. Here's a tenner for you.
What, for me? What for?
For nothing, because you're our first customer. Now run along and tell all your friends.
Well, that's a nice way to make money, I must say.
Give us that penny. You think this is just a penny, don't you? Well, it isn't. Where's the hammer?
Whatever are you going to do now?
I'm going to nail this penny to the counter. And when we've made our first 1,000, I shall have it mounted for you to wear as a brooch.
And I thought I was marrying a quiet, respectable man. Late.
Who's late?
Glad and Ted. I told you they was coming to supper. That's them.
I'll go and open the door. Hello, Glad. Come on in, Ted.
Hello, dear.
Hello, Mum.
Good evening, Ted.
Evening, Ma.
You can all sit down to table. Supper's just ready.
For what we're about to receive, may the Lord make us truly thankful. Though I must say there are things I'm more thankful for than cold mutton.
His lordship's getting quite fancy in his old age. Now, what's the matter, Glad? You look as if you've been crying.
So you do, Glad. Ted been knocking you about?
That I haven't.
What's the trouble then?
Well, she's expecting.
I know that. That's nothing to cry about.
Tell him, Ted.
I've got the sack.
Oh, Ted.
There's me expecting and no money coming in. I don't know what we're going to do.
Now, stop crying, Glad, and just listen to me. We haven't done so badly since we opened the shop. In fact, we've made a nice little profit. If we can make a success out of one shop, there's no reason why we shouldn't make a success out of another.
You can't do a thing like that. You're out of your mind.
No, I'm not. I'll get another shop and put Ted and Glad in to manage it.
Dad, you wouldn't do that.
And I'll tell you another thing. When the baby's born, we'll have a slap-up christening at St. Peter's, Neville Square.
To take care that this child be brought to the bishop to be confirmed by him so soon as he can say the creed, the Lord's Prayer, and the 10 Commandments in the common tongue, and be further instructed in the church catechism set forth for that purpose. Now will the parents and the godparents come with me to the vestry, if you please?
Went over all right, eh? Thank you.
It is Foreman, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
I thought it must be. I hardly recognized you.
When I do a thing, I like to do it in style, sir.
Getting on all right, Manuel?
I'm not complaining, sir. Seeing as how this is an occasion, sir, I thought perhaps you wouldn't mind if I was to give something for the poor and needy of this parish.
Of course I wouldn't mind.
Thank you, sir. £50, sir.
Albert's second shop, like the first, had been a success. It now occurred to him that if he could run two, he could run half a dozen. So he and Emma began walking about London, and whenever they found a long street and no tobacconists and a shop to let, they took it. In the course of 10 years, he'd acquired no less than 10 shops, and he was making money hand over fist. He went round to all of them himself every Monday, collected the week's takings and took them to the bank. One day, he was making his usual call.
Good morning, Mr. Foreman. Regular as clockwork you are.
That's right. I've got no patience with them fellas who keeps their money under the bed. Asking for trouble, I'll call it.
The manager would like to see you before you go. He asked me to let him know when you looked in.
Well, what's the matter? Nothing wrong, is it?
No, of course not. He only wants a word or two with you, that's all.
Well, banks do go bust, don't they?
Not this one, Mr. Foreman. I think he's free now. I'll just go and see. Mr. Foreman, will you come in, please?
Good morning, Mr. Foreman. I was expecting you. Regular as clockwork, aren't you?
That's what the fella outside said.
Won't you sit down?
Thank you, sir.
You have a cigarette?
No, thanks. I don't smoke them now. I'll sell them.
And from what I know, you make a very good thing out of it, eh?
I'm not complaining.
Now, Mr. Foreman, I wanted to have a talk with you about the money you've got on deposit with us. Do you know exactly how much it is?
Not within a pound or two, but I've got a pretty good rough idea.
Apart from what you're paying in this morning, it's something over £30,000. That's a very large sum of money, Mr. Foreman. I should have thought you'd do better to invest it.
I wouldn't want to take no risks.
Quite right, too. We'd make you out a list of perfectly safe securities, sound industrials. They'd bring you in a higher rate of interest than we could possibly afford to give you.
I never had anything to do with stocks and shares.
No, we'd attend to everything. All you'd have to do would be just to sign the transfers.
Yes, but how would I know what I was signing?
Well, you could read, I suppose.
Well, that's just it. I can't. I know it sounds funny, but there it is. I can't read or write, only my name.
But that's the most extraordinary thing I've ever heard.
Well, you see, it's like this, sir. I never had the opportunity until it was too late, and then somehow I wouldn't. I got obstinate like.
But you mean to tell me that you've been able to build up this important business and amass a fortune of over £30,000 without being able to read or write? Good heavens, man. What would you be today if you had been able to?
Well, I can tell you that, sir. I'd be Verger at St. Peter's, Neville Square.
Mr. Noel.